Welcome, transmission receivers. You're tuned in to the Last Transmission podcast. We're the program that tries to cut through the spat, get to the core of what's really shaping things.
That's the goal.
And today, we're looking at something pretty ambitious. A project aiming to redefine global identity, maybe even income. It's called Worldcoin, and there's this thing called the orb.
That's right, Worldcoin, co-founded by Sam Altman, yes, the OpenAI guy. And it's definitely stirred up a lot of debate already.
For sure.
At its heart, it's pitched as a way to tell humans from AI online, which, is becoming a real issue. And it connects this to a possible path for universal basic income, UBI.
So, you get scanned to prove you're human and maybe you get paid for it regularly. It sounds kind of sci-fi.
It does have that feel.
What does that system actually look like? How is it supposed to work? And I guess, what are the catches, the hidden bits? Let's try to unpack it.
Okay, where should we start? The beginning.
Yeah, let's start there. So, Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, his thinking behind Worldcoin, it starts with AI, right?
Yeah.
This idea that AI will generate just massive amounts of wealth, unprecedented.
Exactly. That's the optimistic part. But
Okay.
there's the other side. He also predicts, that this AI boom could displace a whole lot of jobs.
Right. People out of work.
And maybe just as fundamentally, it gets harder and harder to know if you're interacting with a person or a bot online. Think about proving you're you.
Okay, so that's the problem Worldcoin wants to solve. And their solution has, what, two parts?
Yeah, basically. First, this proof of personhood, a reliable way to verify you're a unique human being. One person, one identity, no fakes, no bots.
Like a global human verification system.
Kind of. And then second, they link that proof to universal basic income. So AI creates the wealth, this system verifies you're human, and the UBI gets distributed to actual people.
Gotcha. Addressing the job thing and the bot thing together.
Yeah, the vision.
And the key piece of tech here is the orb, this shiny sphere thing.
The iris scanner. It's pretty striking. The process is, you download their World app, then you have to physically go to an orb.
Find one of these things.
Right. And it scans your iris, the colored part of your eye. At the same time, you scan a QR code from your app's wallet. That's the moment it links your unique humanness to your digital ID.
How many of these orbs are out there?
Well, as of mid-2023, they had about 1,500 in 35 cities. But they're pushing for more scale. They unveiled a mini orb recently.
Mini orb.
Yeah, smaller, handheld, pocket-sized even. The idea is it's easier to deploy, maybe even integrate into other devices like point-of-sale systems eventually. Much more scalable.
So you go up to this orb, big or small, it scans your eye, your face. Does it collect anything else?
It does. Beyond the images, it apparently collects what they call inferred data, things like age range, maybe skin color, gender.
Broad categories.
Inferred, so it guesses, sort of estimates based on the scan, yeah. And it also checks for liveliness, body temperature, things like that, to make sure it's a real person. Plus, a uniqueness check to stop people signing up multiple times.
Okay, but what about the privacy of that eye scan? That seems sensitive.
It's the big question, isn't it? Worldcoin insists they don't store the full biometric data, like the whole iris image.
So what do they store?
They say they generate a kind of code, a partial hash, from your iris. Think of it like a digital fingerprint, but one you can't easily reverse to get the original image back.
So it proves you're unique in their system.
Exactly. Without, they claim, storing your raw biometric identity. It's meant to verify you're one person, not who that person is. That's their privacy argument.
Okay, so you get scanned, you get verified, you get this unique world ID. What happens then? What's the payoff?
You get Worldcoin tokens, WLAID. It's a cryptocurrency, an ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain.
Crypto.
Yep. When they started, the first grant was bigger, like 25 WLD. Now it's more like smaller amounts, say 5 WLD, maybe every couple of weeks. That's the UBI part starting.
And you manage this through their app, the World app.
Correct. The World app is your digital wallet. That's where you receive the WLD grants. And you can hold other crypto like Bitcoin or Ethereum there too. It's your main interface with their system.
And this World ID thing, it's more than just getting tokens, right? What's the bigger goal there?
But the big ambition for World ID is for it to be this universal digital passport, a way to prove online that you're a unique human, but without giving away your personal data.
How does that work?
They talk about using something called zero-knowledge proofs. It's a crypto technique that lets you prove something is true, like I am a unique human registered in this system, without revealing the underlying data, like your iris scan hash itself.
Okay, that sounds technically clever.
If it works as advertised, yeah. The idea is you could use it everywhere online to prove you're not a bot, without sites needing your name or anything else. A universal standard.
And I heard something about a card, like a payment card.
Yeah, they're planning a Visa-compatible World Card. The idea is to let you spend your WLD or other crypto in the World app easily, in regular shops or online where Visa is accepted, connecting crypto to everyday spending.
So if you put all the pieces together, Worldcoin is essentially running its own private UBI scheme.
Fundamentally, yes.
Yeah.
Distributing these WLD grants to people they've verified in specific countries they choose to operate in is a huge experiment.
How huge are we talking in terms of money and people?
Well, by May 2024, they'd apparently distributed something like $752 million worth of WLD based on the value when granted.
Wow. That's a lot.
And in terms of people, around 3.9 million unique wallets had claimed at least one grant. That's nearly 4 million verified individuals.
And they get regular grants.
Seems so. The numbers suggested around 35 million individual grants total, averaging nearly 9 grants per person. Lifetime average payment, maybe around $200 per recipient by that point.
And it's growing fast.
Very fast. The number of recipients apparently tripled just between January and May 2024. We're talking about a user base 10 times the population of Iceland, just for context.
Okay, so that's the scale. Now, this idea of using crypto for UBI, is Worldcoin the only one thinking this way?
Oh, no, not at all. There's actually a strong argument that crypto and UBI are a really good match.
Why is that?
Several reasons. Efficiency is a big one. Traditional aid often involves banks, intermediaries, lots of fees, delays. Think about sending money across borders or on weekends.
Right, it can be slow and costly.
Crypto can bypass a lot of that.
Right.
Lower costs, faster transactions, which means more of the money actually reaches the person who needs it. Clear. Especially useful where banking is limited.
Makes sense. What else?
Automation. Using smart contracts on a blockchain, you can program them to automatically send out the UBI payments regularly.
Less admin, fewer errors.
Exactly. Reduces overhead, makes it more reliable. Plus, everything's recorded on the blockchain immutably.
Transparency.
Huge transparency. You can track the funds, audit the system easily, cuts down on potential fraud or mismanagement.
And you mentioned inflation. How does crypto help there?
Ah, right. In places with unstable local currencies, hyperinflation can just destroy savings or aid value.
Yeah.
Think Zimbabwe in 2008.
Yeah, horrific.
If UBI is paid in a stablecoin crypto pegged to, say, the US dollar, it holds its value much better, protects people from that local currency volatility.
Okay, interesting. And decentralization.
Yeah, that's maybe the most radical idea. Using DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, to manage UBI. Instead of one central body, maybe communities manage their own UBI distribution.
Giving people more control locally.
Precisely. Projects like Good Dollar or Impact Market are already exploring this.
Yeah.
It makes UBI potentially more responsive to actual local needs. So yeah, efficiency, automation, inflation protection, transparency, decentralization. Lots of reasons proponents see crypto as a natural fit for UBI.
Okay, that paints a pretty positive picture for the idea of crypto UBI. But Worldcoin itself, it's faced a lot of criticism, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Significant concerns. One common critique is that its structure feels a bit like, well, like a multi-level marketing scheme, an MLM.
How so?
Because of the way growth is incentivized. With existing users or operators needing to verify new users, there's this built-in incentive to recruit. Critics argue the value comes more from recruitment than the token's actual use.
Right. The focus is on network growth.
And that raises questions about long-term sustainability. Plus, the fact the company kept 20% of the initial tokens for itself and investors adds to that skepticism for some.
And that old saying, if it's free, you're the product. Does that apply here? You're giving up your iris scan.
That sentiment is very strong around Worldcoin. People are asking, what's the real cost of getting these free tokens if it involves handing over immutable biometric data?
Yeah, what is the trade?
Some critics use pretty strong language calling it techno-financial shock entrepreneurship.
What does that mean?
Basically deploying this massive tech and finance project rapidly, maybe without fully considering local laws, cultural context, or the secondary impacts, like imposing a model rather than integrating with existing systems.
Which leads us straight into the privacy issues. This seems to be the biggest flashpoint.
Absolutely. Biometric data.
Yeah.
People like Edward Snowden, groups like the EFF, they warn this stuff is immutable. You can't change your iris scan like you change a password.
Once it's compromised forever.
Exactly. There's no recourse.
Yeah.
And that raises fears about black markets for this data or misuse down the line surveillance, identity theft you can't fix. It's a serious concern.
And governments are noticing, right? Regulators are stepping in.
They are, big time. In 2023, you had investigations launched in India, South Korea, Kenya, Germany, Brazil, a global wave of scrutiny.
And some went further than investigating.
Yes, Spain outright banned their data collection in early 2024. Hong Kong followed suit, specifically citing concerns about holding that biometric data for years for AI training. Portugal and Italy are also showing signs of pushing back.
What did the investigation in Kenya find? That seemed pretty significant.
It was a multi-agency group there found irregular and unlawful processing of sensitive personal data. They questioned if giving out WLD tokens was basically inducement, like paying people for their data without proper consent.
So consent was a major issue.
Big time. Also, lack of clarity on what data was collected, where it was going, potentially outside Kenya. Failing to do a proper data protection impact assessment, which is standard practice. Cybersecurity worries too.
And Worldcoin stopped operating there.
They suspended operations in Kenya after police raids, yeah. The issues raised there, lack of info, consent problems, minors' data, difficulty withdrawing consent. These are themes popping up globally.
How has Worldcoin responded to all this pressure?
They've taken some steps. They open sourced some of their code for the Orb software and some of the back-end crypto stuff, allowing for public review.
Okay, transparency.
And they introduced a personal custody option in the app, where users can supposedly keep their encrypted data on their own device, not on Worldcoin servers. They also say users can delete their old iris codes now.
So trying to give users more control.
That seems to be the message. They claim they've passed security audits and stress the complexity of the tech, welcoming dialogue with regulators. But critics argue open sourcing code doesn't fix fundamental issues like improper consent.
Stepping back a bit, beyond the tech and the privacy, is there a bigger question here about control? About another Silicon Valley giant potentially dominating digital identity and maybe even income?
That's a really crucial point. We've seen how social media platforms started with high ideals and ended up as massive, powerful entities. Should we be wary of a private company becoming the gatekeeper for proving you're human or distributing basic income?
Especially when they do have a business model, right? It's not pure charity.
Exactly. They've talked about charging network fees for World ID verification if platforms adopt it. And monetizing the World app in various ways, there's clearly a significant commercial interest here alongside the UBI narrative.
Which could lead where? A sort of universal digital score tied to your identity.
That's the fear some people have, that this kind of system, controlled privately, could evolve into something that determines access or opportunity based on data held by the company. It raises profound questions about power and control in our digital future.
So we have this grand vision from Worldcoin solving AI challenges, offering UBI, using cutting-edge tech, but it's wrapped up in these really serious concerns about privacy, control, and, well, whether the whole economic model is sound.
It's a fascinating clash, isn't it? Trying to solve real problems like inequality and digital identity, but facing intense global pushback because of how they're doing it. It really forces you, the listener, to think. In this AI-driven future, what are you willing to trade for security or income? How much of your unique identity goes digital?
And who gets to hold the keys to that digital future? A government? A company? A decentralized network? Big questions.
Definitely food for thought.
Indeed. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep your transmissions clear. This has been the Last Transmission Podcast.